Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. Welcome to Islamic Spirit. The sun rises over the Arabian desert. A call to prayer echoed softly. Wind sweeps across ancient sands, whispering the secrets of a forgotten age. How did a message from a man, alone in a cave, in the heart of a desert, transform empires, awaken hearts, and change the course of human history? This is not just a story, it is a divine revolution, a movement that began in obscurity, amidst persecution and poverty, yet spread across continents with unmatched speed and spiritual power. In this documentary, we'll journey through time, from the darkness of pre-Islamic Arabia to the moment the first revelation was received, to battles fought not just on fields, but within hearts, to the final sermon that would echo through generations. This is the untold story of courage, revelation, and divine purpose. This is the rise of Islam. Before you start, remember to like the video, subscribe, and activate the bell so you don't miss a thing. Share this video with your loved ones, as this knowledge can literally change a life. Long before the rise of Islam, Arabia was engulfed in a dark age, a time historians call Jahiliyyah, or the age of ignorance. It was a world ruled by tribal pride, blood feuds, and endless cycles of revenge. Loyalty to one's clan outweighed justice. Identity was drawn not from truth, but from lineage and warfare. Idol worship dominated the land. Over 360 idols surrounded the Kaaba, once built by Prophet Ibrahim, upon him be peace, for the worship of one God. Generations later, it had become a marketplace of false gods. The names of Lat, Uzza, and Manat were called upon, yet hearts remained empty. Women suffered immensely. They were treated as property, bought, sold, and inherited. Daughters were considered shameful burdens. Some newborn girls were buried alive beneath the sand by their own fathers, believing they were sparing themselves dishonor. The poor and the enslaved were exploited without mercy. Racism, classism, and pride consumed every interaction. The powerful preyed on the weak, while poets romanticized violence and intoxication. Knowledge was scarce. Morality was twisted. The soul of Arabia was lost in the desert of spiritual despair. Wars erupted over camels, water, or pride, sometimes lasting for decades. The absence of a unifying law or moral compass left society in chaos. Truth was whatever the strong declared it to be. Mercy was seen as weakness. And in this vast spiritual void, where hearts longed for meaning and the world cried silently for change, came a moment that would shake the heavens. A light was about to rise. A revelation was near. The world was broken. But Allah had not forgotten it. High above the city of Makkah, on the rocky slopes of Jabal al-Nur, the mountain of light, there lies a small, narrow cave known as Hijrah. It was here, far from the noise of the world, that a man named Muhammad ibn Abdullah would retreat year after year in search of truth. He was known among his people as Al-Amin, the trustworthy, a man of integrity, reflection, and unmatched character. But the society he lived in, full of idols, injustice, and spiritual darkness, deeply troubled him. He sought solitude, prayer, and purpose in the quiet of the cave. Then, on a night unlike any other, in the year 610 CE, during the blessed month of Ramadan, everything changed. As he sat in meditation, surrounded by the silence of the mountain, an immense light filled the cave. Standing before him was an angel, Jibreel, upon him be peace. The heavens had opened, the silence shattered. Iqra, recite. The voice shook the cave and his heart. I am not a reciter, he replied. Again the command came, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Recite in the name of your Lord who created. Surah Al-Alaq, 96:1. The first verses of the Quran had descended. The era of ignorance had met divine guidance. Islam was born. Terrified and trembling, the Prophet, peace be upon him, rushed down the mountain. His heart pounded with the weight of the message. He entered his home and cried to his beloved wife, "Zamiluni, Zamiluni, cover me, cover me." And Khadija bint Khuwaylid radiallahu anha, the first believer, the pillar of support, embraced him with strength and compassion. She reassured him, "By Allah, Allah will never disgrace you. You keep good relations with your kin. You help the poor and the needy. You speak the truth, and you support the oppressed." She took him to her cousin, Waraka ibn Nawfal, a learned Christian. Upon hearing the account, Waraka confirmed, "This is the same angel that came to Moses. You are the prophet of this nation." That single moment, hidden in a cave on a silent night, would ignite a fire that would spread across the globe, from one heart to billions. The final messenger had received his call. The light of revelation had returned to earth. When the message of Islam began to spread through the streets of Makkah, it shook the foundations of a society built on idolatry and arrogance. The Quraysh, leaders of Makkah, saw this new faith not as light, but as a threat to their power, their wealth, and their traditions. The early Muslims were few, but their hearts were firm. Among them was Bilal ibn Rabah radiallahu an, a black slave who embraced Tawheed, the oneness of Allah. For his belief, his master dragged him through the burning sands, tied him down under heavy stones, and demanded he renounce his faith. But with parched lips, Bilal responded again and again, "Ahad, Ahad, one, one." Then there was Sumayya bint Khayyat radiallahu anha, the first martyr in Islam. Alongside her husband Yasir and son Ammar, she was tied and tortured under the blazing sun. Abu Jahl, one of the fiercest enemies of Islam, struck her down with a spear, simply because she declared her belief in Allah. These were not warriors. They were humble, honest people, men, women, slaves, and youth, who believed in the truth. Their only crime was proclaiming La ilaha illa Allah. The Quraysh's hatred escalated. Muslims were publicly beaten, starved, and mocked. They were socially boycotted, forced into the dry valley of Abu Talib for 3 painful years. Supplies were cut off. Children cried of hunger. Leaves were eaten for survival. Yet in the midst of this cruelty, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, remained unshaken. He did not retaliate with violence. He prayed, he preached, he persevered. He trusted in Allah with unwavering sincerity. Every time a companion fell, he lifted them with words of paradise. Every time hope seemed lost, he reminded them of the bigger plan. When asked why he didn't curse the Quraysh, he replied, "I was not sent to curse, but as a mercy to mankind." Through fire and fear, the early Muslims stood firm. They didn't have numbers, wealth, or weapons, but they had faith, and that was stronger than any chain. After years of persecution, torture, and loss, it became clear that Makkah was no longer safe for the believers. But Allah had prepared a new home for them, Yathrib, soon to be known as Al-Madinah Al-Munawwara, the Radiant City. The Hijrah, the migration of the Prophet Muhammad and his followers, was not just a journey across deserts. It was a journey of faith, sacrifice, and trust in Allah. Families left behind their homes, wealth, and memories. They became refugees for the sake of the truth. The Prophet and his close companion, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, radiallahu anhu, made the journey in secrecy. Hunted by Quraysh assassins, they hid in the cave of Thar. While fear crept around them, The Prophet, peace be upon him, reassured Abu Bakr with words immortalized in the Quran. Do not grieve, indeed Allah is with us. Surah At-Tawbah 940. Upon arrival in Medina, the believers were not met with hostility, but with love and open arms. The Ansar, the helpers, welcomed the Muhajirun, immigrants, as brothers. They shared their homes, their food, and their hearts. It was a model of Islamic brotherhood rarely seen in history. The Prophet began building something that had never existed before, an Islamic society, not based on tribe or race, but on faith, justice, and divine guidance. At the center of this new society was the masjid, a place of prayer, learning, and leadership. The Prophet did not only lead in worship, he led in building a community of peace, cooperation, and law. To unify the diverse people of Medina, Muslims, Jews, and pagans, he drafted a groundbreaking document, the Constitution of Medina. This treaty outlined mutual rights, freedom of religion, and collective defense. It recognized the Prophet, peace be upon him, as the head of state and established justice as a core pillar of society. It was one of the first written constitutions in human history, a shining example of Islamic governance rooted in equity and mercy. In just a few years, what began as a group of outcasts grew into a nation of believers, governed by Quranic principles and led by the most honorable of men. The seeds of a civilization had been planted, and soon the world would see its fruits. With the birth of the Islamic State in Medina, the Quraysh saw Islam not just as a faith, but as a force. They would not let it grow unchallenged, and so the battlefield became the test of faith, courage, and divine promise. Battle of Badr, 2 AH. The first and most miraculous of battles, the Muslims, just 313 men, poorly armed and unequipped, faced over 1,000 Qurayshi soldiers. Logic said defeat, but faith said victory. Before the battle, the Prophet Muhammad lifted his hands to the heavens and wept. O Allah, if this group is destroyed, you will not be worshipped on earth. In response, Allah sent down angels to fight alongside the believers. And Allah had already given you victory at Badr while you were weak. Surah Al-Imran 3:123. The result, a stunning victory. It wasn't about numbers, it was about trust in Allah. Battle of Uhud, 3 AH. A year later, the Quraysh returned for revenge. This time, the Muslims numbered around 700, facing 3,000 enemies. In the beginning, victory was near, but disobedience cost them dearly. Some archers abandoned their positions to collect spoils, despite the Prophet's clear command. The enemy capitalized, flanking the Muslims. Over 70 companions were martyred, including the Prophet's beloved uncle, Hamza radiallahu anh, whose body was mutilated. The Prophet, peace be upon him, was injured, his tooth broken, his face bleeding. Yet even in pain, he prayed for his enemies. O Allah, guide my people, for they know not. Uhud was not a defeat. It was a lesson. Obedience matters, and victory lies in submission to Allah, not strategy alone. Battle of Khandaq, 5 AH. The Quraysh, joined by other tribes, formed a coalition of 10,000 to wipe out the Muslims. In response, the Prophet, on the advice of Salman al-Farsi, dug a trench around Medina. This was not just warfare, it was a test of patience. For weeks, the Muslims faced cold, hunger, and fear, but they stood united. When the believers saw the Confederates, they said, "This is what Allah and His Messenger promised us." Surah Al-Ahzab 33:22. And once again, Allah sent a wind and angels to dismantle the enemy's forces. The siege collapsed without a full battle. These moments shaped the soul of the Ummah. They taught that victory is not by sword or numbers, but by faith, unity, and submission to Allah. They revealed the strategic brilliance and unshakable patience of the Prophet, peace be upon him. In every drop of blood, in every cry of Allahu Akbar, Islam marched forward, not by might, but by meaning. After years of struggle, battles, and sacrifice, the moment that many thought impossible finally came, the peaceful conquest of Makkah in the year 8 AH 630 CE. With a formidable but disciplined army of nearly 10,000 Muslims, Prophet Muhammad marched toward his birthplace, not to seek revenge, but to restore truth. The Quraysh, once fierce enemies, were caught off guard by the mercy extended to them. The Prophet entered the city without bloodshed, ordering his followers to avoid violence and destruction. In the most remarkable act of forgiveness in history, the Prophet declared, "Go, for you are free." He pardoned those who had persecuted him and his followers for decades, men who had plotted his death and tortured his companions. When he reached the Kaaba, the center of idol worship, he cleansed it by removing statues and idols, restoring it as a place for the worship of one God, Allah. The people of Makkah were astonished by this mercy that conquered hearts more than swords ever could. The Quran declares, "And not equal are the good deed and the bad. Repel evil by that deed which is better." Surah Fussilat 41:34. Months later, during the Hajj pilgrimage, the Prophet delivered his final sermon atop Mount Arafat, a speech echoing through the ages. He reminded the Ummah of their unity. All mankind is from Adam and Eve. An Arab has no superiority over a non-Arab, nor does a non-Arab have superiority over an Arab. A white has no superiority over a black, nor does a black have superiority over a white, except by piety and good action. He emphasized, "O people, your blood, your property, and your honor are sacred and inviolable, just as this day of yours, this month of yours, and this city of yours are sacred." The farewell sermon was a final testament to justice, equality, and devotion to one God. It was a call to end tribalism, racism, and oppression forever. In that sermon, the Prophet passed the torch to humanity, a legacy not of conquest by force, but by love, mercy, and faith. The rise of Islam was complete. Following the Prophet Muhammad's passing in 632 CE, the momentum of Islam did not waver. It accelerated. Under the wise and just leadership of the first caliphs, especially Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu and Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu, Islam expanded far beyond the Arabian Peninsula, transforming entire civilizations. Abu Bakr faced the Ridda Wars, uniting fractured tribes that had renounced Islam after the Prophet's death. His firm leadership preserved the young Muslim community and ensured its survival. Then came Caliph Umar, whose reign marked a remarkable period of growth and justice. Under his command, the Muslim armies moved swiftly into the Persian Sassanid Empire and the Byzantine territories of Syria, Egypt, and North Africa. These conquests were not driven by greed or oppression, but by a vision of spreading the message of monotheism and justice. Islam's spread was largely peaceful and inclusive. Wherever it reached, it blended with local cultures, inspiring a golden age of science, philosophy, art, and governance. Cities like Baghdad, Cordoba, and Cairo became beacons of knowledge, housing scholars who preserved and expanded human understanding. The Quran's principles guided rulers to establish justice, equality, and welfare for all citizens, regardless of religion or ethnicity. Islamic law provided frameworks for trade, human rights, and community welfare unheard of in many parts of the world at that time. From the sands of Arabia, Islam's light reached Persia's gardens, Byzantium's churches, Africa's deserts, and Asia's mountains. It united diverse peoples through faith, creating a civilization that valued learning, compassion, and progress. This rapid expansion was not just territorial. It was a spiritual and cultural revolution, the echoes of which continue to shape the world today. The rise of Islam was not just the birth of a religion, it was the emergence of a profound way of life, shaped by the unmatched character of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Known for his mercy, wisdom, and unwavering justice, he inspired empires to rise and hearts to transform. The British historian Thomas Carlyle called him the most extraordinary man that ever lived. The French philosopher Alphonse de Lamartine wrote, "Without the Quran, Muhammad's life is a closed book. Without Muhammad, the Quran is a sealed book." Through his teachings, the Prophet ignited spiritual revolutions, ending cycles of tribalism and hatred. His legacy built cities of learning, justice, and compassion whose influences echo through time. Islam today is not a relic of history. It is a living faith embraced by over 1 billion souls worldwide, guiding lives with its timeless principles of worship, ethics, and community. From the deserts of Arabia to the modern global stage, the rise of Islam remains a testament to the power of faith, mercy, and unity. The rise of Islam teaches us timeless lessons of faith in the face of hardship, mercy over revenge, and unity beyond division. What can we learn from the early Muslims who stood firm when all seemed lost? How can their courage inspire us in our own challenges today? If this journey through history has moved you, dive deeper into the life and teachings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the message of Islam. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that illuminate faith, hope, and resilience. Share this video to spread knowledge and understanding. Remember the words of the Quran. Indeed, Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change what is in themselves. Surah Ar-Ra'd 13:11. Let the rise of Islam inspire the change within us all. If you liked this video and want to learn more about good ways to communicate with respect and kindness, then like this video to support the message. Subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. Share this video with your loved ones so that together we can spread more kindness. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. Tell me in comments what question has ever made you uncomfortable and how you'd like people to communicate with you. See you soon for a new video.